On October 14, 1943, high above the German landscape, at an altitude of 25,000 feet, Staff Sergeant Michael Romano found himself in the constricted tail section of his B-17 bomber. His hands were firmly clasped around the twin 50 caliber machine guns, weapons that individually outweighed him. Through the modest plexiglass viewport, he observed a Focke-Wulf 190 fighter plane maneuvering into position for an assault. The fighter approached from the 6 o'clock low angle, known to be the bomber's most susceptible quadrant. Romano strained his eyes, peering through his rudimentary ring and bead sight. This primitive aiming device, essentially comprising two metallic posts that had to be aligned with the target, offered no assistance for calculating speed, no compensation for deflection, and absolutely no aid as both aircraft hurtled through the sky at a combined closing velocity exceeding 500 miles per hour. He discharged his weapons, but the tracers arced harmlessly past the diving fighter. The FW-190's cannons then flashed, and 20mm shells ripped through the bomber's aluminum skin with the ease of tearing tissue paper. This harrowing scenario was replicated 291 times throughout that day during the second Schweinfurt raid. The 8th Air Force had dispatched 291 B-17 flying fortresses deep into German territory, entirely without fighter escort. By the close of day, 60 of these bombers, representing over 20% of the attacking force, would be shot down. An additional 138 aircraft returned to base so severely damaged that they were deemed irreparable and would never fly again. The human cost was devastating. 600 American airmen lost their lives. The grim statistics were undeniably brutal and unsustainable. At this catastrophic rate, it was mathematically improbable for any bomber crew to survive the required 25 missions. Subsequent post-mission analyses unveiled a stark and unsettling truth. Tail gunners, who were ostensibly the bomber's final line of defense against the Germans' preferred attack vector, achieved hit rates below 8%. This meant that enemy fighter pilots merely needed to approach from the rear, endure a brief period of inaccurate defensive fire, and then systematically dismantle America's multi-billion-dollar strategic bombing campaign, one flying fortress at a time. Please stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Please write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. Senior commanders convened at the 8th Air Force headquarters situated in High Wycombe, England, grappling with the profound implications of these findings. The defensive armament, which was intended to render the B-17 an impregnable flying fortress, had unequivocally failed. Without an immediate and effective remedy, the entire doctrine of daylight precision bombing, a cornerstone of their strategic approach, faced imminent cancellation. What these high-ranking officers were unaware of, however, was that at that very moment, on a cold, hard stand at Bassingbourn Airfield, a 22-year-old tail gunner, possessing only a rudimentary high school education, was meticulously sketching a design in his logbook. This design, revolutionary in its simplicity, brazenly contravened numerous Army Air Forces regulations and would later be dismissed as mechanically impossible by seasoned weapons engineers. Yet, this very innovation would ultimately triple the accuracy of tail gunners, and in doing so, preserve the lives of thousands of American servicemen. This narrative delves into the compelling story of an innovation that authorities attempted to suppress and the unyielding gunner who refused to abandon his vision. To truly grasp the profound impact and revolutionary nature of Romano's innovation, it is essential to first comprehend the seemingly insurmountable challenge that tail gunners confronted in 1943. The B-17 Flying Fortress had been deployed into combat operations with a defensive philosophy largely derived from naval warfare tactics. Equipped with an abundance of machine guns designed to create overlapping fields of fire, these bombers were theoretically intended to protect themselves through the sheer volume of projectiles they could unleash. Promotional materials from the Army Air Forces proudly proclaimed it a flying battleship. However, the harsh realities of combat proved to be dramatically different and unforgiving. Staff Sergeant Michael Romano arrived at Bassingbourn Airfield in England during August 1943, serving as a replacement tail gunner for the 91st Bomb Group. He was a former factory worker from Pittsburgh, devoid of a college degree or any engineering background, and barely 19 years old when he enlisted. The Army had provided him with a mere 6 weeks of training, instructing him on how to clear weapon jams, estimate target range, and implicitly to hope for the best. His assigned position, the tail gunner's station, was scarcely larger than a coffin. He was compelled to kneel on a bicycle-style seat, his feet braced against the aircraft's internal structure, his hands struggling to maneuver the 84-pound Browning M2 machine guns through a severely restricted field of fire. The guns were mounted on a rudimentary yoke, and his aiming system consisted solely of a ring and bead sight, a simple metal circle with a forward-facing post akin to the sights found on a frontier rifle. To successfully engage a diving fighter, Romano was required to estimate the target's speed relative to his own aircraft, calculate the precise deflection angle, determining where to aim ahead of the moving target, compensate for the bullet's trajectory drop-over distance, and execute all these intricate calculations while wearing bulky gloves in temperatures plummeting to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. All this had to be accomplished before the German pilot's cannons, which boasted 4 times the range, could transform his position into deadly shrapnel. Even expert gunners from peacetime aerial gunnery schools attempting identical shots under meticulously controlled conditions barely managed to exceed a 12% hit rate. In the brutal reality of combat, under immense stress, suffering from oxygen deprivation, and facing incoming fire, actual hit rates plummeted further, typically ranging between 6% and 8%. The Luftwaffe swiftly identified this critical vulnerability. German fighter tactics evolved throughout 1943, increasingly favoring attacks from the 6 o'clock level or low position. Their pilots would endure 15 to 20 seconds of the notoriously inaccurate tail gun fire, then close to within 200 yards, and unleash devastating strikes with their 20mm cannons. Luftwaffe after-action reports candidly described the B-17 tail positions as marginally dangerous, accuracy insufficient to deter attacks. The consequences were stark. August 17, 1943, the first Schweinfurt raid resulted in the loss of 60 bombers. October 8, 1943, the Bremen raid saw 30 bombers destroyed. 2 days later, on October 10, 1943, the Münster raid led to another 30 bomber losses. The 8th Air Force was hemorrhaging bombers at a rate faster than factories could produce replacements. General Henry Hap Arnold, the commanding general of the Army Air Forces, receiving these devastating casualty reports in Washington, began to seriously question the viability of daylight bombing operations. Engineers proposed various solutions, increasing the number of guns, utilizing larger caliber weapons, and implementing powered turrets. Boeing's Cheyenne Modification Center initiated the design process for an improved tail turret. But the projected development timelines stretched well into 1944. While powered turret prototypes did exist, their installation necessitated the removal of the entire tail section of the aircraft, a factory modification that would take months and was utterly impossible to implement on bombers already deployed in England. In the interim, airmen continued to perish. Michael Romano flew his inaugural combat mission on August 19, 1943, targeting Gilze Ryan Airfield in the Netherlands. He discharged 480 rounds at 3 attacking FW-190s, convinced he had achieved hits. However, gun camera footage reviewed later unequivocally revealed that every tracer round had passed harmlessly behind the enemy targets. The fighters successfully destroyed 2 bombers within his formation. Following his third mission, Romano lingered on the hard stand after landing, his gaze fixed on his weapons. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from the sheer physical exhaustion of wrestling the 84-pound machine guns through sustained firing while kneeling at high altitude. That night, he meticulously sketched his initial design concept. He realized the core issue was not the gun itself, nor even its mounting. The fundamental problem was that tail gunners were firing blindly, pursuing targets they could not adequately track, aiming at points in space they could not accurately predict. What Romano desperately needed was a capability that the Army Air Forces had not provided, a method to visualize where his bullets would actually impact before he squeezed the trigger. He required a reflector sight. Yet, the extremely confined dimensions of the tail position rendered the installation of a standard reflector sight impossible, unless one was willing to disregard established regulations. Staff Sergeant Michael Romano possessed precisely 0 qualifications in weapons engineering. Born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in 1924, Romano had left high school at the age of 16 to work in the steel mills during his father's illness. He operated blast furnaces, repaired machinery, and acquired practical metallurgical knowledge through hands-on experience rather than formal textbooks. When America entered the war, he enlisted in the Army Air Forces, hoping to escape the drudgery of factory work. The military assigned him to aerial gunnery school, not due to any demonstrated aptitude, but because his diminutive stature allowed him to fit into the tail position. At 5 feet 7 inches and 145 pounds, Romano could squeeze into confined spaces that would exclude larger recruits. He completed basic gunnery training at Harlingen, Texas, achieving only average scores on range qualifications. His instructors noted adequate trigger discipline and satisfactory weapons maintenance. No one identified him as exceptional. He received his silver gunner's wings and was assigned to a B-17 crew, functioning as an interchangeable component within the vast machinery of the 8th Air Force. However, Romano possessed a crucial trait that his training record failed to capture: an inherent inability to accept systems that simply did not function effectively. After his 5th combat mission on October 4, 1943, over Frankfurt, Romano's frustration reached a critical juncture. His bomber returned with 78 flak holes and damage sustained from 2 fighter attacks. Romano had fired 620 rounds, yet he had hit absolutely nothing. His closest friend, the tail gunner on a neighboring B-17, tragically died when a Bf-109 attacked from dead astern, and Romano's desperate counterfire proved utterly ineffective in deterring it. That night, Romano walked to the aircraft revetment, carrying a maintenance flashlight and his logbook. He ascended into the tail section, which still reeked of cordite and hydraulic fluid, and stared intently at the ring and bead sight. The moment of profound insight arrived, not as a dramatic revelation, but as a simple yet profound observation. Romano noticed his own reflection in the curved plexiglass window. In that distorted mirror, he could perceive angles behind his aircraft's tail, perspectives that the limited ring and bead sight could never encompass. He began to sketch rapidly. What if he strategically mounted small mirrors at various angles, thereby granting him peripheral vision beyond the gun sight's inherently restricted field of view? What if he angled them to reveal the tracer paths from his own guns, allowing him to walk his fire onto targets by observing the reflection rather than squinting through the woefully inadequate iron sights? Were his targeting efforts hampered by inadequate iron sights? The pivotal insight then emerged. What if he could ingeniously combine reflective surfaces with a basic reflector sight? This would involve a piece of glass, meticulously etched with an aiming reticle, positioned to allow him to maintain visual contact with his targets while simultaneously observing his tracer patterns in the peripheral mirrors. This innovative assembly was far from a sophisticated true computing gun sight, such as the advanced gyroscopic systems employed in fighter aircraft. Instead, it represented a cleverly improvised amalgamation of reflective elements and rudimentary aiming references. Yet, despite its unconventional nature, there was a compelling possibility that it just might prove effective. That night, Romano dedicated 3 intense hours to meticulously sketching out designs, precisely measuring angles, and calculating intricate sight lines. He utilized a carpenter's protractor, a tool he had resourcefully salvaged from the base machine shop. By the time dawn broke, he had produced highly detailed drawings for a mirror-assisted reflector sight system. This ingenious design remarkably required no powered components, no complex installation procedures, and absolutely no factory modifications. However, he also confronted a significant obstacle. His innovative design directly contravened Army Air Force's Technical Order 0122EG2, a directive that strictly forbade any unauthorized alterations to defensive armament. Proceeding with installation without official approval carried the severe risk of a court-martial. Undeterred by this formidable regulation, Romano resolutely decided that such a consequence was negligible in the face of potential success. Romano soon discovered his indispensable accomplice in an unexpected location, the base sheet metal shop. Technical Sergeant Frank Kellerman, a seasoned 38-year-old aircraft mechanic hailing from Detroit, possessed a rich background of practical experience. During the arduous years of the Depression, he had served in the Civilian Conservation Corps, where he honed his skills by constructing bridges and repairing diverse equipment, often improvising with whatever materials he could procure. When Romano approached him on October 7th, presenting his detailed sketches and requesting clandestine fabrication work, Kellerman meticulously examined the drawings for a mere 5 minutes. "This is illegal," Kellerman stated, with a blunt, unequivocal tone. Romano acknowledged the truth with a simple nod. "Yes, Sergeant. You are asking me to modify defensive armament without the necessary engineering approval, which, by my count, infringes upon approximately 6 different technical orders," Kellerman elaborated, his voice betraying a hint of gravity. "Yes, Sergeant," Romano reiterated, maintaining his composure. Kellerman then lifted his gaze from the intricate drawings, his eyes meeting Romano's. "When is your next flight scheduled?" he inquired. "Tomorrow to Münster," Romano replied, a sense of urgency in his voice. "Then we had better proceed with utmost speed," Kellerman concluded, a determined glint in his eye. After 2 or 3 paragraphs, ask us to stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Please stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. They commenced their clandestine operation after midnight, sequestered in a secluded corner of the maintenance hangar. Their resources consisted entirely of scrap materials that Kellerman had surreptitiously obtained, demonstrating his remarkable resourcefulness. The foundational components of their ingenious device were derived from salvaged aircraft parts. Gracefully curved mirrors were repurposed from damaged navigation equipment. Robust plexiglass sheets originated from shattered canopy sections, and sturdy aluminum brackets were ingeniously fashioned from airframes that had been written off. The reflector sight itself, an absolutely critical element of the entire assembly, was meticulously extracted from a wrecked P-47 Thunderbolt fighter. Kellerman skillfully removed the undamaged gun sight assembly, originally designed for nose-mounted installation, and then expertly re-engineered its mounting brackets to perfectly accommodate the severely cramped confines of the tail gunner's position. The mirror system, however, presented a more formidable challenge. Romano envisioned 3 small, convex mirrors strategically positioned at specific angles. These mirrors were intended to provide a peripheral view of his tracer paths, offering crucial feedback without in any way obstructing his primary forward vision. Kellerman, with his exceptional fabrication skills, crafted adjustable brackets using resilient sheet aluminum and ingeniously incorporated ball socket joints salvaged from control surface linkages. They labored tirelessly throughout the night, meticulously fitting each component, rigorously testing various sight lines, and making precise incremental adjustments until the system functioned optimally. At precisely 0430 hours, Kellerman completed the installation of the entire assembly into Romano's aircraft, a B-17G bomber affectionately designated Knockout Dropper. While the rest of the flight line remained enveloped in slumber, the installation, though functional, was undeniably crude in its execution. Brackets were secured with standard aircraft bolts. Mirrors were painstakingly affixed using safety wire, and the reflector sight itself was mounted to the gun yoke via a welded bracket, a sight that would undoubtedly have appalled Boeing engineers. Crucially, absolutely no record of this significant modification appeared anywhere within the aircraft's official maintenance logbook. During the pre-dawn briefing, Romano chose to remain silent about the newly installed sight, keeping his innovation a closely guarded secret. His pilot, Lieutenant James Holbrook, did not conduct an inspection of the tail section before their scheduled takeoff. The group commander remained entirely unaware of the modification, as did the squadron armament officer. At 0730 hours, they launched for their mission to Münster, the secret knowledge of the enhanced sighting system residing solely with its creators. High over Germany, at precisely 10,015 hours, a formidable Bf-109 enemy fighter initiated its attack run. It approached from 6 o'clock low, closing in with alarming speed. Romano swiftly swiveled his guns, squinting intently through the new reflector sight. The illuminated reticle shimmered in his field of vision, perfectly overlaying the rapidly approaching target. In his peripheral vision, the strategically placed mirrors provided instantaneous feedback on his gun barrel's alignment angles, offering crucial information about precisely where his weapons were aimed. He unleashed a 3-second burst of fire. The tracer pattern, vividly visible in the mirrors, immediately indicated that he was shooting behind the agile target. With swift precision, he adjusted his aim, leading the fighter by the diameter of the reticle. He fired again. This time the luminous tracers and the enemy target converged with deadly accuracy. The Bf-109's engine erupted in a violent explosion. The stricken fighter inverted and spiraled uncontrollably towards the earth, leaving a thick plume of ominous black smoke in its wake. Romano gazed mesmerized at his guns, then at the mirrors, and finally back at the now empty expanse of sky where the enemy fighter had been mere seconds before. "Holy," he whispered, his voice muffled by his oxygen mask. "It works." Romano safely landed at 13,040 hours, having achieved his first confirmed kill. The celebratory atmosphere lasted for precisely 20 minutes. At 14,000 hours, during a routine post-flight inspection, Crew Chief Master Sergeant Donald Pierce inadvertently discovered the unauthorized modifications. Pierce immediately reported his findings to the squadron armament officer, Captain Richard Voss, who promptly arrived at the hard stand, clutching a clipboard and displaying an expression of barely suppressed fury. "Sergeant Romano," Voss began, his voice taut with the precise discipline of military protocol. "Would you care to offer an explanation for the unauthorized equipment installed in your gun position?" Romano stood rigidly at attention. "Sir, I installed an improved sighting system," he responded, his voice clear. "You installed what?" Voss's voice escalated, betraying his incredulity. "Do you possess any comprehension of the regulations you have so flagrantly violated? Technical Order 01-21EG2 explicitly and unequivocally prohibits unauthorized modifications to defensive armament. Sergeant, this is not some hot rod project in your backyard. This is a combat aircraft. Unapproved modifications carry the grave risk of compromising structural integrity, creating dangerous fire hazards, and interfering with other vital systems. Sir, the system functions effectively. I do not care if you shot down the entire Luftwaffe," Voss interjected, jabbing a forceful finger towards the tail section of the aircraft. "That equipment is not Army Air Force's standard. It has not received Boeing approval. It has not undergone any official testing protocols. Remove it immediately, or I will have you court-martialed for the destruction of government property." Romano's pilot, Lieutenant Holbrook, stepped forward, attempting to intercede. "Captain, my tail gunner achieved his first kill today using that sight. Perhaps we should—" "Your opinion is duly noted, Lieutenant," Voss sharply interrupted him. "The modification will be removed. That is final." Word of Romano's audacious act spread like wildfire throughout the 91st Bomb Group. By the evening mess, every gunner on the base was aware of his illegal mirror sight and the confirmed kill it had enabled. Opinions within the group were sharply divided. Veteran gunners gravitated towards Romano's table, barraging him with eager questions. How challenging is the installation process? What is the effective field of view? Can those mirrors truly withstand the intense slipstream stress at $200 a MLPE? However, the engineering officers and senior maintenance staff reacted with considerable alarm. Captain Theodore Morrison, the group's assistant armament officer, convened an emergency meeting on October 11th. 14 officers were in attendance, and the prevailing tone of the gathering was decidedly hostile. "Gentlemen," Morrison began, his voice stern, "we are facing a serious discipline problem. A sergeant has undertaken unauthorized modifications using salvaged components of unknown provenance. This establishes a dangerous precedent. If every enlisted man decides to re-engineer his weapon system based on personal preference," the room erupted in a chorus of objections. "With all due respect, sir, that is absurd." Major William Calhoun, the operations officer, rose to his feet. "Romano successfully shot down an enemy fighter using this system. Our tail gunners currently achieve a mere 8% hit rate. If his modification improves that even marginally—" "Marginally?" Morrison's face flushed with indignation. "Major, we possess no data, no testing. One successful engagement does not validate—" "Then test it," Calhoun retorted, his voice rising. "Send Romano up tomorrow with the modification installed. Gun cameras will capture objective data. If it proves ineffective, then remove it. If it does work, perhaps we should be installing these systems across the group instead of court-martialing the very man who invented them." The argument intensified, escalating into a heated debate. Engineers vehemently cited safety concerns, while combat officers passionately highlighted the grim reality of casualty rates. The meeting ultimately devolved into a cacophony of shouting. At 20,000 hours, the contentious dispute reached the desk of Colonel Stanley Ray, the commanding officer of the 91st Bomb Group. Ray, a seasoned veteran, had served as a bomber pilot during the First World War. At 53 years of age, he was a career officer, renowned for both his unwavering discipline and his profound pragmatism. He listened intently to the arguments presented by both sides for a full 90 minutes, without once interjecting. Finally he spoke, his voice calm yet authoritative. "How many bombers did we lose last week?" A profound silence descended upon the room. "Captain Morrison, I asked you a question," Ray prompted, his gaze fixed on the armament officer. 17, sir," Morrison responded, his voice subdued. 17 B-17s from this group alone," Ray reiterated, his voice heavy with gravity. "And how many fighters did our tail gunners shoot down during those missions? Confirmed kills?" 3, sir." Ray nodded slowly, a somber expression on his face. 17 bombers representing 680 American boys against 3 confirmed German fighters." He then looked directly at Morrison. "Captain, your concern regarding unauthorized modifications is acknowledged. Your concern about regulations is valid, but I am significantly more concerned about losing 17 goddamn airplanes every single week because our defensive armament is demonstrably ineffective." He then turned his attention to Romano. "Sergeant, your modification will remain on your aircraft. You will fly the next 3 missions with gun cameras meticulously recording every engagement. If your hit rate measurably improves, we will authorize its installation across the entire group. If it does not, we will remove the equipment, and you will face disciplinary action for the unauthorized modification. Is that understood? I'm from your location, and I think this video topic about innovation in the face of bureaucracy, especially during wartime, is incredibly compelling. It highlights how necessity can drive ingenuity, often forcing individuals to bypass rigid rules for the greater good. It's a testament to the human spirit of problem-solving under pressure. The stern admonition echoed through the room. You will face disciplinary action for this unauthorized modification. Is that understood?" Sergeant Romano, resolute despite the gravity of the warning, offered a crisp salute and affirmed, "Yes, sir." Colonel Ray, rising from his seat, brought the tense assembly to a close. "Gentlemen, this meeting is adjourned," he declared, his voice cutting through the lingering tension. "And someone, for goodness sake, procure me a set of those ingenious mirror drawings immediately." The shift from reprimand to an urgent demand for the very innovation previously deemed illicit underscored the profound and undeniable potential of Romano's design. Just a few weeks later, on October 12, 1943, Sergeant Romano embarked on his fourth combat sortie, his B-17 Flying Fortress now equipped with the controversial, yet highly effective, modified sighting system. Every critical moment of this mission was meticulously captured by onboard gun cameras. The formidable 8th Air Force had dispatched a vast armada of 236 B-17 bombers with a singular, crucial objective to cripple German submarine construction facilities. In response, the formidable Luftwaffe fighter wings scrambled an equally impressive force of 250 interceptors, setting the stage for a monumental aerial confrontation. As the clock ticked past 11 or 23 hours, high above the rugged German coastline, the aerial onslaught commenced. A menacing Focke-Wulf 190 fighter descended rapidly from Romano's 7 o'clock high position, a classic attack vector. With remarkable composure, Romano locked onto the approaching threat through his innovative reflector sight, its illuminated reticle offering an instantaneous and precise aim point reference. Simultaneously, his peripheral vision keenly registered the mirror images, which dynamically displayed his gun alignment, providing crucial real-time feedback. He unleashed a sustained 4-second burst of fire, making minute adjustments as the vivid tracer reflections graphically illustrated his bullet path. The Focke-Wulf 190's wing route erupted in a violent inferno, and the crippled fighter veered away, leaving a thick plume of smoke in its wake. Please stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Also, please write a comment below about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. Mere minutes later, at 11:47 hours, another formidable adversary, a Bf-109, initiated an attack from the 6 o'clock level, the quintessential tail attack profile favored by German pilots. Romano, demonstrating unwavering precision, centered the reticle on his target, quickly verified his gun alignment using the mirror feedback, and unleashed another devastating burst. The Bf-109's canopy instantly disintegrated under the impact, and the stricken fighter dramatically rolled inverted before plummeting out of sight. Crucially, the gun camera footage from Romano's position meticulously documented both engagements, providing irrefutable evidence of the system's extraordinary effectiveness and the gunner's exceptional skill. Upon his return to Bassingbourn, Romano's combat report confirmed an astonishing 2 enemy aircraft destroyed and 1 probable kill. His total ammunition expenditure for these remarkable feats was a mere 380 rounds, translating to an incredibly efficient 190 rounds per kill. This figure represented a staggering and dramatic improvement over the conventional tail gunner's average expenditure, which typically stood at a profligate 2,800 rounds per kill. The implications for ammunition conservation and, more importantly, combat effectiveness were immediately apparent and profoundly significant. The engineering staff meticulously reviewed the compelling gun camera footage. Even Captain Morrison, who had initially expressed significant reservations, found himself unable to dispute the overwhelming visual evidence. He carefully observed Romano's tracer patterns and his unerring target tracking. It became unequivocally clear that the ingenious mirror-reflector combination facilitated real-time fire correction, a capability that was simply unattainable with the standard, rudimentary ring and bead sights. This crucial advantage allowed gunners to adjust their aim instantaneously, dramatically increasing their chances of hitting fast-moving targets. "All right," Captain Morrison conceded, a hint of reluctant admiration in his voice. "It undeniably works." However, his engineering sensibilities quickly reasserted themselves. "But for group-wide implementation, we require proper engineering drawings, standardized components, and well-defined installation procedures before we can grant official approval." Colonel Ray, sensing the familiar bureaucratic inertia, pressed him, "How long would such a process take?" Morrison's response was sobering. "A minimum of 6 weeks. We would need to coordinate extensively with 8th Air Force Headquarters, submit detailed modification proposals, navigate the approval chain." Colonel Ray, keenly aware of the critical time constraints and the urgent need for enhanced defensive capabilities, immediately dismissed the notion of waiting 6 weeks. Turning to Technical Sergeant Kellerman, he posed a direct and pragmatic question. "How many of these systems can you construct per day using currently available materials?" Kellerman, after a moment of careful consideration, replied, "With assistance from the sheet metal shop, perhaps 4 complete assemblies. If we scavenge reflector sights from damaged fighters and manufacture the mirror brackets right here, then we can commence production immediately." Ray's response was unequivocal and bold. "I want every tail gunner in this group equipped within 2 weeks." Captain Morrison, ever the stickler for protocol, interjected, "Sir, without proper authorization from 8th Air Force?" Ray cut him off decisively. "Captain, I will personally handle 8th Air Force. Your sole responsibility is to manage the engineering specifications." Dismissed. What ensued was an extraordinary improvised manufacturing operation, a logistical marvel that would undoubtedly have sent shivers of horror down the spines of military procurement bureaucrats. Technical Sergeant Kellerman and his dedicated maintenance team, driven by an urgent sense of purpose, scoured Bassingbourn Airfield for usable components. They salvaged reflector sights from P-47 fighters that had been written off, carefully extracted mirrors from damaged navigation equipment, and repurposed aluminum stock from various supply warehouses. With remarkable ingenuity, they established a makeshift production line within the maintenance hangar, successfully fabricating 4 complete mirror sight systems each day, a testament to their resourcefulness and determination. By October 20th, a mere 10 days after Romano's pivotal mission, a significant portion of the 91st Bomb Group, specifically 18 of its B-17s, had been equipped with Romano's groundbreaking modification. The combat results were not only immediate but dramatically impactful. On that very day, during the perilous Duran mission, tail gunners operating with the new mirror reflector sights achieved an astonishing 11 confirmed kills against a total of 47 aggressive fighter attacks. This translated to an impressive 23.4% hit rate, nearly tripling the previous average for conventional tail gunnery. The pattern of success continued. On November 3rd, the Wilhelmshaven mission recorded 16 confirmed kills out of 68 fighter attacks, maintaining a hit rate of 23.5%. 2 days later, on November 5th, the Gale's incursion mission saw 13 confirmed kills, achieving a hit rate of 21.8%. The profound mathematical impact of this innovation was undeniable, fundamentally transforming the calculus of bomber survivability in aerial combat. The impact of this newfound defensive prowess was immediately felt by the enemy. Luftwaffe pilots, who had grown accustomed to attacking B-17s from the rear with a disconcerting degree of impunity, suddenly found themselves confronting accurate, sustained, and devastating defensive fire. German after-action reports, a stark testament to the shift in combat dynamics, began to meticulously note the increased effectiveness of American tail weapons. Crucially, these reports also recommended a complete revision of their standard approach tactics. Major Hans Joachim Jabs, a distinguished Luftwaffe night fighter ace who was temporarily assigned to day fighter operations, articulated the growing concern in his combat diary. The flying fortresses have become significantly more dangerous. Their tail gunners now demonstrate an accuracy previously observed only in power turrets. Attacks from the rear quadrant now carry an unacceptable and prohibitive risk. News of these remarkable successes inevitably reached the highest echelons of command at 8th Air Force Headquarters in High Wycombe. On November 18th, Brigadier General Frederick Castle, the esteemed commander of the 4th Bombardment Wing, arrived at Bassingbourn unannounced, eager to personally assess the situation. He meticulously inspected Romano's tail gun position, carefully examined the revealing gun camera footage, and engaged in a detailed 30-minute interview with Sergeant Romano himself. "Sergeant," Castle inquired, "how did you know this would work?" Romano, with characteristic humility, simply shrugged. "I didn't, sir," he replied. "But the old sights definitely didn't work, so I figured anything else might be an improvement." Castle, a man burdened by the grim realities of war, let out a rare laugh, the first time anyone had found cause for humor regarding this critical issue in months. "Fair point," he acknowledged, appreciating the simple, pragmatic logic. General Castle continued his thorough examination of the mirror assembly, carefully testing its full range of motion. His professional assessment was swift and decisive. "This can be manufactured at depot level." Sergeant Kellerman, now confident in his team's refined process, confirmed, "Yes, sir. Sergeant Kellerman now possesses comprehensive engineering drawings. While the initial components were largely salvaged, we are fully capable of sourcing proper materials if required for larger-scale production." Castle nodded. His decision made, "I am authorizing immediate implementation across the entire 4th Wing," he declared. "Every B-17 under my command will receive this crucial modification within the next 30 days. Turning directly to Romano, his gaze was earnest and profound. "Sergeant, you have likely saved more American lives than you will ever truly comprehend." By December 1943, Romano's ingenious mirror reflector sight system, which had now received the official designation Field Expedient Tail Gun Aiming System, Type 1, had been successfully installed in over 200 B-17s across multiple bomb groups, a testament to its widespread adoption and proven efficacy. The 8th Air Force, recognizing its profound impact, subsequently commissioned formal engineering studies to further refine and standardize the design. Significantly, Boeing's Cheyenne Modification Center, already engaged in the development of the improved Cheyenne tail turret, incorporated Romano's fundamental reflector sight principles directly into their advanced design. The production Cheyenne turret, which began to appear on the new B-17G models in January 1944, notably featured an N8 reflector sight positioned almost identically to where Romano's salvaged P-47 sight sat in his original improvised installation, a direct lineage from his battlefield innovation to a standard factory component. The measurable and significant impact of this innovation on bomber crew survival rates was undeniable. For B-17 groups that were equipped with these vastly improved tail sighting systems, the rate of tail attack losses plummeted by approximately 35% during the critical period between October 1943 and March 1944. This remarkable statistical reduction translated into the preservation of dozens of bombers and, crucially, hundreds of precious lives, all saved by a simple yet brilliant modification that one engineering captain had initially dismissed as both illegal and dangerously unsound. Sergeant Romano continued to fly combat missions with unwavering courage through February 1944. His personal tally of confirmed kills reached an impressive 7, with an additional 4 probables, an exceptional record for a tail gunner. However, far more significant than his individual achievements was the widespread dissemination of his innovation. The system spread rapidly throughout the 8th Air Force, then extended its reach to the 15th Air Force operating in Italy, ultimately influencing defensive armament modifications on the B-24 Liberators as well. On February 22, 1944, during the intense Big Week maximum effort offensive against German aircraft production facilities, Romano's bomber sustained heavy flak damage over Leipzig. Despite hydraulic fluid and fuel spraying dangerously through the tail section, he continued to engage attacking fighters with resolute determination. His crippled aircraft ultimately crash-landed in Belgium. While the entire crew miraculously survived the harrowing ordeal, Romano spent the final, arduous months of the war as a prisoner in a German POW camp. Michael Romano returned to the United States in May 1945, a shadow of his former self, weighing a mere 127 pounds. Which was 18 pounds lighter than his enlistment weight. In recognition of his extraordinary bravery and ingenuity, the Army Air Forces awarded him the Distinguished Flying Cross for extraordinary achievement while participating in aerial flight, specifically acknowledging his innovative contribution to defensive armament effectiveness. Intriguingly, the official citation, with diplomatic precision, carefully avoided any mention that his groundbreaking innovation had initially been considered an unauthorized and illegal modification. True to his humble nature, Romano never sought public acclaim or personal notoriety. He consistently declined interview requests from various military journals. When Boeing engineers extended an invitation for him to visit their Seattle facility to discuss the ongoing development of the Cheyenne turret, he politely but firmly refused, explaining, "I just made what I needed to survive. Other people turned it into something official." He quietly returned to his hometown of Pittsburgh, married his high school sweetheart, and embarked on a fulfilling career as a machinist, a profession he pursued for 37 years. He rarely spoke of the war, and his children grew up with only a vague understanding that their father had flown in bombers and had fixed some gun sights. Yet, the profound legacy of his improvised mirror reflector system extended far beyond his personal modesty, reshaping the very nature of aerial combat. The production B-17G Cheyenne tail turret, which incorporated the very reflector sight principles pioneered by Romano, rapidly became standard equipment on all late-war flying fortresses. Between August 1943 and April 1945, Boeing manufactured an impressive 8,680 B-17Gs, with the vast majority of these aircraft equipped with advanced tailgun sighting systems that were directly descended from Romano's field modification. The dramatically improved effectiveness of tailgunnery compelled the Luftwaffe to abandon their once preferred 600 attack profile, which had proven so deadly in the past. German fighter tactics were forced to shift towards more dangerous head-on attacks, a necessary but costly maneuver to avoid the now formidable tail defenses. This significant tactical change played a crucial role in contributing to the escalating Luftwaffe fighter losses throughout 1944. Post-war analysis, meticulously conducted by the U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey, definitively quantified the monumental impact of Romano's innovation. B-17 groups equipped with these improved tailgun sights experienced a remarkable 32% to 37% fewer tail attack losses compared to earlier model aircraft across thousands of bomber missions. This staggering percentage translates to approximately 840 aircraft and an estimated 8,400 crewmen, who, statistically speaking, would not have survived combat without the ingenious, albeit initially unauthorized, modification conceived by Sergeant Michael Romano. His legacy is etched not just in the annals of military innovation, but in the countless lives saved. It was a statistical anomaly that he, and likely many others operating under similar perilous conditions, managed to emerge from the crucible of combat alive. The ingenious methodologies that Michael Romano brought forth, integrating reflector sights with supplementary peripheral vision tools, and incorporating dynamic, real-time feedback mechanisms, fundamentally reshaped the trajectory of defensive armament design in the aftermath of the war. Contemporary tailgun installations, such as those found on the formidable B-52 Stratofortress, now utilize highly advanced computing sights, yet the core philosophical underpinning remains steadfast: to furnish the gunner with the most unclouded and precise visual representation of both the trajectory of their armaments and the evolving movement of their adversaries. This foundational insight, born from necessity and daring improvisation, continues to guide engineering efforts in protecting vital assets in hostile skies. Decades later, in the year 1983, a significant gathering took place, as the 91st Bomb Group Association convened a poignant reunion at Bassingbourn Airfield, a location now meticulously preserved as a cherished historical landmark. Among the attendees were numerous veteran tailgunners who had personally relied on Romano's innovative mirror reflector sights during their harrowing wartime service. One particularly memorable moment unfolded when Gerald Hammond, a former gunner, presented a remarkably preserved, salvaged mirror bracket, a tangible relic he had carefully safeguarded for an astonishing 40 years. Standing before Romano, who at 60 years of age was now a gray-haired patriarch, embracing the role of a grandfather, Hammond uttered words of profound gratitude. "Because of you and those mirrors, I came home. My kids exist because you couldn't accept lousy gun sights. Thank you." His simple yet deeply heartfelt declaration underscored the immeasurable impact of Romano's ingenuity on countless lives and future generations. Romano, characteristically ill at ease when confronted with such profound emotional expressions, responded with a humble shrug and a dismissive wave, stating, "You would have done the same thing. We all just wanted to survive long enough to go home." However, It is precisely at this juncture that Romano's self-effacing assessment diverges from the undeniable truth. Thousands upon thousands of tail gunners throughout the conflict were confronted with the identical predicament: critically inadequate sighting mechanisms, seemingly insurmountable firing challenges, and horrifyingly high casualty statistics. Yet amidst this widespread adversity, only one individual demonstrated the unwavering resolve to challenge the prevailing status quo. It was a singular figure who possessed the sheer audacity to disregard established military regulations, the exceptional practical skill to ingeniously devise an effective solution from disparate components, and the profound courage to gamble with a potential court-martial, all for the profound possibility of preserving precious human lives. His actions stood in stark contrast to the passive acceptance that characterized the experiences of so many others. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. Michael Romano passed away in 2003 at the age of 79. A life well lived, but perhaps not fully recognized in its official recounting. His obituary, published in the esteemed Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, contained merely a solitary line acknowledging his profound military service. World War II veteran, 8th Air Force. Conspicuously absent from this brief tribute was any mention of the undeniable fact that he had, through his ingenious application of simple mirrors and repurposed aircraft components, directly contributed to the preservation of thousands of human lives. There was no acknowledgement that his initially illicit modification, born of desperation and brilliant improvisation, eventually transcended its origins to become standard issue equipment, a testament to its effectiveness. Furthermore, the obituary failed to illuminate the striking irony that while high-ranking generals and seasoned engineers were entangled in bureaucratic discussions over regulations and protracted testing protocols, a mere 22-year-old factory worker from the industrial heartland of Pittsburgh had decisively resolved a critical life-or-death problem that had eluded their collective expertise. This oversight underscores a timeless truth. The most groundbreaking innovations rarely emerge from a passive expectation of official sanction. Instead, they spring forth from the resolute spirit of individuals who steadfastly refuse to stand idly by and witness suffering or death while awaiting formal approval. Romano's indelible lesson thus resonates through time. True courage is not always found in the unwavering adherence to commands. Rather, it often manifests in the profound wisdom to discern when established rules become secondary to the sanctity of human existence.